These are the top 20 cars that shaped the future of the automotive industry in America. Number 20. Ford Model T. Before the Model T, driving a car was a rich man's pastime. Cars were just too expensive for anyone else to own. Henry Ford would change that in 1908 by making a car that was reliable, easy to operate, and easy to maintain for only $300. Can you imagine that? All of a sudden, cities didn't seem so far anymore. Ford's Model T was more than a car. It shaped the world we currently live in. The Model T became so popular that Ford commanded a 50% market share of the American automotive market with the single model. The company produced 15 million Model Ts during the car's lifetime. Many regard this vehicle as the one that put the world on wheels. Do you agree? Have a look at the other 19 cars on our list and tell us what you think. Number 19. Dodge Brothers Model 30. If you've forgotten the Ford Model T, you certainly won't remember its wannabe, the Dodge Model 30. The Dodge brothers supplied automotive parts for Ford until they saw an opening. Why supply car parts alone when they could be making their own? They thought their car could be even better than the Model T. So, the Dodge brothers went to work. Their car came equipped with 35 horsepower, a 212 cubic inch four-cylinder engine, and a 3-speed sliding gear transmission. It also came with a folding top, electric lighting, leather upholstery, an electric starter, a windshield, and a speedometer. It was both stylish and reliable. It could hit a top speed of 50 miles per hour, fast for its time. It was a great car, but it wasn't that cheap. The touring model cost $785, and it wasn't the Model T. This next car has an even better backstory, and we're sure you've not seen anything like it. Number 18. OldsMobile Model R. Ransom Olds released the Model R on a mountain of ashes. In reality, the Model R was the only one of 3 prototypes that survived a fire that destroyed his factory. It was almost divine. The Model R shined despite its fiery history. It became America's best-selling from 1902 through 1905. Also known as the Curved Dash, the Model R was America's first practical, reliable, and mass-produced car. Costing only $650, the Curved Dash possessed a 7-horsepower single-cylinder engine, a simple 2-speed planetary transmission, a chain drive, and high ground clearance to brave the unpaved and rugged American roads of that time. There is no doubt that the Model R embodied the can-do spirit that makes America so great, but it pales in comparison to this next vehicle. Or not. You decide. Number 17. Ford Model A. The Model T was revolutionary, but it couldn't stay forever. Imagine if after watching this video, you go outside to see that everyone was driving the stylish but crude Model T again. That would be very disturbing, especially since so many incredible cars have been released since, including its successor, the Ford Model A. In response to the decline of the Model T, Ford created the Model A with a modern feel and several innovations that made it stand out from the competition. Ford's Model A was an economy car but boasted a 4-wheel hydraulic lever shock absorber, self-adjusting 4-wheel mechanical brakes, and a laminated safety glass windshield. These features set it apart from the competition as Ford looked to build another vehicle with mass appeal. Ford took all the elements that made the Model T a resounding success and repackaged it in a Model A body. It was simple, reliable, and affordable. The Model A convertible sedan cost $640, and the Roadster only $480. It wasn't the Model T, but the Model A did numbers. 2 years into production, Ford had already built its 1 millionth Model A, and 2 million just 6 months later. However, the Model A2 would soon become obsolete, and this next car had more than a little to do with it. Number 16. 1931 Chevrolet AE Independence 6. Chevy released their Independence 6 around the same time Ford released the Model A as a challenger. Chevrolet's Independence 6 packed 50 horsepower and an overhead valve 6-cylinder engine. The vehicle's slogan was A6 for the price of a 4, a nod to the vehicle's superior number of cylinders compared to the Model A's. The extra 10 horsepower it had over the Model A should have been the nail in the coffin for the Model A, but it didn't entirely work that way. Consumers loved the Model A so much that it took another 2 years and the Great Depression before the Independence 6 could compete with Ford's Model A. The Chevrolet Independence 6 will eventually surpass the Ford Model A in sales, a crucial victory for the company. Even when Ford introduced the powerful V8 engine, the Chevy 6 was only 5 horsepower less and was more preferred as it offered a smoother ride than Ford's noisy V8. What do you know, the V8 is next on our list. It's almost like this was scripted. Number 15. 1932 Ford Model B V8. While General Motors CEO William Durant was the perfect salesman, Henry Ford styled himself as a visionary, can-do engineer. He always wanted to do things differently. So, when many automakers began favoring the inline six-cylinder engine, Ford described it as an uninspired copy. Instead, he set his sights on a new engine that'll challenge every automaker in the industry and change the course of history. May 1930 saw the birth of Ford's mechanical brainchild, V8 prototype that would make gearheads swoon for generations. The V8's 221 cubic inch engine produced 65 horsepower, over 50% more than the Model A, and spotted a single P-cylinder block and crankcase. Despite initial hiccups, turns out V8s get a bit hot under the collar. The engine's lightweight, reliability, and power became the talk of the town. The V8 even garnered some unsavory fans. John Dillinger and Clyde Barrow, always ahead of the curve, appreciated the V8's getaway potential. Unfortunately for them, their 1934 Ford sedan couldn't outrun bullets. Number 14. 1934 Chrysler Airflow. Walter P. Chrysler's journey to the top is the ideal American success story. Starting as a farmhand, Walt climbed the ranks to manage Buick for General Motors, earning an astonishing $175,000 per year in 1917. Eventually, he struck out on his own to start his car company. Chrysler teamed up with engineers Carl Breer, Fred M. Zetter, and Owen Skelton. Together, they created the 1934 Chrysler Airflow, a car born from Breer's wind tunnel experiments. The Airflow's teardrop shape, sloped radiator grille, and one-piece curved windshield were ahead of their time, as was the Tesla-like one-piece steel body that added rigidity and the placement of the engine over the front axle. However, people are not always accepting of the new. The Airflow's revolutionary design was met with skepticism. Even with dramatic ads showing an Airflow surviving a dive off a cliff, Americans were not exactly interested in driving off a cliff, so it didn't garner mass-market appeal. It didn't help that the Great Depression was in full swing, as not many Americans were willing to spend $1,345 on this unconventional car. The Airflow faded from the market 3 years later as a bold innovation that never quite found its footing. Did you know anyone with a Chrysler Airflow? Let us know in the comments. While you do that, let's leap to 1949 when a new generation of automakers started to make waves in the world. Number 13. 1949 Ford. After the deaths of Edsel Ford in 1943 and Henry Ford in 1947, the next generation of the Ford family had to step up and guide the company into the post-war world. Their first big challenge was designing the 1949 Ford. This new model was a game-changer, with integrated fenders that flowed seamlessly into the body, a sleek, continuous side profile, and a rounded passenger compartment. Underneath, they moved away from the old-fashioned transverse leaf springs that Henry Ford had insisted on and introduced a modern suspension system with coil springs up front and longitudinal leaf springs for the rear axle. As the auto industry ramped up civilian car production after the war, Ford managed to outshine competitors like Chevrolet and Plymouth in 1949. The third generation of the Ford family, led by Henry Ford II, took bold steps that paid off, setting the company on a path to success in the new era. The taste of this new generation was different, and no car quite captured this unseen distinction like this next car. Number 12. 1953 Chevrolet Corvette Roadster. In 1953, each of GM's divisions presented a sports car. As part of the company's annual Motorama that started in 1949, Buick introduced the Wildcat I, designed by Harley Earl, while Pontiac offered the chauffeur-driven Parisienne. However, Chevrolet took a different approach with the Corvette, a small, fiberglass-bodied two-seater inspired by the Jaguar XK120. The Corvette created such a buzz that Chevrolet started low-volume production in Flint, Michigan, in 1953, producing only 300 units with a 150-horsepower engine and Powerglide automatic transmission. In 1954, production moved to St. Louis, with plans to sell 10,000 Corvettes. Though sales didn't meet expectations, GM, then led by Alfred P. Sloan, saw the Corvette's potential. The Corvette's new 195-horsepower V8 engine in 1955 began to shift public perception. Chevrolet eventually hit the 10,000-unit sales mark in 1960, and today, Corvette production exceeds 30,000 units annually, all tracing back to this 1953 Roadster. The Corvette's rise to prominence was slow but steady. This next car didn't need as much time or PR to break into the hearts of many. Number 11. 1955 Chrysler C-300. In 1955, the Chrysler C-300 stood out among notable releases like the V8 Thunderbird and Corvette, and the 55 Chevy. Based on the New Yorker Deluxe and Virgil Exner's design, the C-300 featured a bold, athletic look and was available in just 3 colors: white, red, and black. The car was equipped with a 331 cubic inch Hemi engine, producing 300 horsepower, and a reinforced suspension to handle its power. Despite its 4,000-pound weight, the C-300 excelled on the racetrack, with a fleet of them winning more than 37 AAA and NASCAR races in 1955. The Chrysler C-300 was a revolutionary car, often considered the first American muscle car. This car was all about power, performance, and style. Chrysler's C-300 started the American muscle car craze, but this next car started a whole new one that still runs rampant to this day. Number 10. 1955 Chevrolet. The 1955 Chevrolet's sleek redesign, balanced lines, and subtle chrome helped Chevrolet record production numbers that year. But it wasn't just about looks. The real star was the new 265 cubic inch V8 engine. Developed by Chevrolet's chief engineer, Ed Cole, this engine was 41 pounds lighter than the previous Chevy 6. Its design, with a short piston stroke and big valves, delivered impressive performance at high RPMs. The small block V8 was a game-changer, putting Chevrolet at the forefront of the horsepower race and making a big impact on the brand's future and that of America's automotive industry. Number 9. 1957 DeSoto Adventurer. The DeSoto Adventurer was the peak of the forward-look design, capturing the jet age/retro vibe. Its long, sleek body and bold two-tone paint job gave it a dynamic presence, even when it was parked. The tail fins, integrated taillights, and massive chrome front end made it look ready to take off at any moment. It was easy to fall in love with this car. Inside, the Adventurer didn't skimp on luxury. It came with features like the TorqueFlite automatic transmission and power brakes right from the start. DeSoto even added gold-plated trim to give it an extra touch of class. But the real excitement was under the hood. The Adventurer boasted a powerful 345 cubic inch Hemi V8 engine with dual 4-barrel carburetors pushing out 345 horsepower. DeSoto proudly claimed it was the only car in 1957 to offer an engine with 1 horsepower per cubic inch. The DeSoto Adventurer was a limited edition, high-performance model that embodied the spirit of the 1950s with its flashy design and powerful engine, but this next car will take all the things that made the Adventurer stand out to another level. Number 8. 1964 Ford Mustang. The Mustang, named after a World War II fighter plane, made a memorable debut at the 1964 World's Fair. While it was essentially a revamped Falcon, this detail was lost on the American public. They saw the Mustang as a game-changer, an affordable, stylish car that could seat 4, just as the baby boomer generation was starting to drive. The Mustang created a whole new category, inspiring a range of rivals like the Camaro, Barracuda, and Challenger. It also led to high-performance models like the GT350 and Boss 302, dominating races and setting records. Fast forward nearly 60 years and 10 million units, and the Mustang is still a Ford favorite. Its design has changed, but it's still unmistakably a Mustang. Lee Iacocca, who pushed for the Mustang's development and famously had one taken up the Empire State Building for a stunt, played a huge role in its success. His marketing genius and the Mustang's innovation helped shape Ford's future and his career. With size, style, and power, the Mustang was everything many Americans wanted. This next car took a different direction and was made for Americans who preferred a smaller car than what was usually available, the compact car. Number 7. Chevrolet Corvair. The rise of compact cars in America was inspired by the success of imports like the Volkswagen Beetle. These smaller, simpler cars were a hit with people looking for practical transportation without the flashiness of bigger models. Among these new entries, Chevrolet's Corvair was a standout. It was the only American car of its time with a rear-mounted, air-cooled 6-cylinder engine. Its unique look, a grille-less front and a long rear where the engine was housed, caught everyone's attention and earned it the Car of the Year title from Motor Trend in 1960. But the Corvair had serious issues. Its rear swing axle suspension made it prone to dangerous handling quirks, especially at high speeds. Despite Chevrolet's efforts to address these concerns with a new rear suspension and a turbocharged engine in 1965, the damage was done. The Corvair was discontinued in 1969, ending a bold experiment in American car design. This next car was another bold experiment with a fun twist. Number 6. Pontiac Le Mans GTO. Pontiac, under President E.H. Pete Estes and Chief Engineer John DeLorian, aimed to outshine Chevrolet as GM's top division by focusing on high performance. They introduced exciting new terms like wide track and tri-power to capture attention, and it worked. DeLorian had created a powerful 389 cubic inch V8 engine that he wanted to put in Pontiac's redesigned 1964 Tempest. However, GM had a rule against large engines in new mid-sized cars. Not to be stopped, Estes and DeLorean found a workaround by offering the 335 horsepower engine as an option for the Le Mans instead. This clever move turned out to be groundbreaking. By 1966, the engine had become so popular it was launched as its model, the GTO. The success of the GTO led GM to lift all previous engine size restrictions. The GTO not only boosted Estes to GM president and DeLorean to head of Chevrolet, but also sparked a national love for muscle cars, marking the start of a new era in American automotive culture. While somewhat of a game-changer in its own right, this next car wasn't as lucky as the GTO. Number 5. Chevrolet Vega. In 1971, GM introduced the Vega, a stylish subcompact with a front engine, rear-wheel drive layout, and a groundbreaking die-cast cylinder block engine. It quickly became a hit and was named Car of the Year by Motor Trend because of its sporty features, bucket seats, and a 3-speed manual transmission. It was Chevrolet's out-of-the-box answer to the growing demand for smaller, fuel-efficient cars. However, the Vega quickly gained a reputation for rapid rusting and engine problems, including vibration and overheating. Despite redesign efforts, production ended in 1977 after about 2 million units. The Vega's decline was so much of a spectacle that Car and Driver included it in their list of the 10 most embarrassing award winners in automotive history. The Chevrolet Vega may not have been perfect, but its daring ideas appealed to many youths just starting in life. For many, the Vega was their first car, and it carried them through an important phase of their life. This next car was even more dangerous than the Vega, but you'd never guess from its appearance. Number 4. Ford Pinto. In 1971, Ford introduced the Pinto as a compact car to compete with popular imports. Led again by Lee Iacocca, the Pinto featured reliable 4-cylinder engines, sporty elements like bucket seats, and a floor-shift manual transmission, and an expanded lineup including a 2-door station wagon. However, the Pinto met a serious safety issue. It was prone to catching fire in rear-end collisions due to its fuel tank design. Although Ford addressed these issues in 1976 models and later recalled pre-1976 Pintos, the damage to its reputation was already done. In 1980, Ford faced reckless homicide charges related to a fatal Pinto fire, which further harmed its public image. We imagine the company would prefer this car stay forgotten. Number 3. Shelby Cobra. The Shelby Cobra, dreamed up by American racing driver Carroll Shelby, exemplifies high performance and power. This Anglo-American creation mixed a powerful American V8 engine with a sleek chassis, body, and interior from AC cars in the UK, with final assembly in California. When the Cobra debuted in 1962, it quickly caught the eye of automotive journalists and dominated the racetrack. Its performance was spectacular, particularly in 1965, when Cobras won 9 out of 12 FIA World Championship races, securing the GT Championship for an American manufacturer for the first time. The Cobra's influence has lasted well beyond its original production run. It has created a niche market for racing, restoring, and replicating these iconic cars. The legacy continues with a range of Cobra replicas, from high-quality reproductions to more basic imitations. Number 2. DeLorian DMC 12. John Z. DeLorean's story is as much about the man himself as it is about the cars he built. Known for his bold moves and flashy lifestyle, he made a powerful mark with his work. At Pontiac, he sparked the muscle car era with the Lemons GTO. Later, at Chevrolet, he developed the Vega and the powerful Chevelle, helping Chevy hit a milestone of 3 million car sales in 1972. After leaving GM in 1973, DeLorean started his own company, aiming to build an ethical sports car. He persuaded the UK government to set up a factory in Northern Ireland and launched the DMC 12 in 1981. The car's brushed stainless steel body and rear-mounted V6 engine were innovative, but production issues and quality problems led to its short-lived run. DeLorean's career hit a major bump when he was arrested in a drug sting, though he was acquitted. His automotive career struggled after that, but the DMC 12 found lasting fame as Marty McFly's time machine in Back to the Future in 1985, ensuring his place in pop culture. Have you seen a real DMC 12? We'd love to hear your thoughts on this futuristic vehicle that got misplaced in time. Number 1. Chevrolet Monte Carlo. When it comes to GM's muscle cars, the Chevrolet Chevelle often steals the spotlight. However, the Chevrolet Monte Carlo packs the same powerful V8 engines, including the impressive 454 big block. Built on the G-body platform, a modified version of the A-body with an extended front section, the Monte Carlo blended luxury with muscle. With engine options ranging from a 350 cubic inch small block to the mighty SS 454 big block, the Monte Carlo had plenty of power. It also made a memorable appearance as the main ride in the 2006 film Fast and Furious, Tokyo Drift, showcasing its sleeper car status. Though the Monte Carlo might not be as famous today, it was a standout choice in its time, especially in the 1980s when it made waves in NASCAR. These cars were not all great, they all inspired stories, and every time challenged the boundaries of what was possible. This video is dedicated to the brilliant minds that shaped America's automotive industry. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe.